you ever notice what happens when you pull back your energy from a man? When you stop texting, stop calling, stop chasing, suddenly the silence becomes louder than words. And in that silence, he's forced to do one of two things. He either steps up and shows you exactly how much you mean to him, or he reveals the truth you've been avoiding all along. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what happens when you stop contacting a man and why it's the most powerful move you'll ever make. When you stop contacting a man, the very first thing that happens is silence. And here's the truth: silence is never empty. Silence speaks. Silence has a way of echoing louder than any word you could send in a text, louder than any phone call you could make, louder than any explanation you could try to give. Because when you go quiet, when you stop reaching out, when you no longer initiate the conversation, what you're really doing is creating space. And in that space, he's left alone with himself. He's left alone with his thoughts, his feelings, and his awareness of your absence. You see, we often think that if we don't remind someone we're here, they'll forget. But the reality is, people remember silence more than they remember noise. Think about it. If you're used to hearing from someone every day, that constant buzz of attention, that steady stream of good mornings and how was your day? And then one day, nothing, it hits different. It makes you notice. It makes you wonder. It makes you ask yourself, why do I feel the gap? And that's exactly what happens to a man when you stop contacting him. He notices. He notices not just the lack of your messages, but the lack of your energy. He notices the absence of your presence in his day-to-day life. And here's what's powerful: silence forces him to measure what that absence means to him. Does it create relief? Or does it create longing? Does it make him breathe easier? Or does it make his chest feel a little heavier? You don't even have to say a word to find out. Your silence says it all. Now, why does silence speak so loud? Because when you're not filling in the space, when you're not doing the chasing, when you're not supplying the attention, the responsibility shifts. It's no longer on you to maintain the connection. It's on him. And that's when you get your answer. Because if a man truly values you, your silence won't be comfortable for him. It will feel like something's missing. It will pull at him, and he'll want to close that gap. He'll want to reach out. He'll want to re-establish the connection. But if your silence doesn't move him, if it doesn't stir him, if it doesn't bother him at all, then what you've just done is uncover the truth you may have been too afraid to see while you were busy doing all the work. That's the beauty of silence. It clears the noise and shows you reality. And here's something I want you to understand: silence is not a game. It's not manipulation. It's not about withholding communication just to get a reaction. It's about reclaiming balance. It's about saying, I'm not going to carry this relationship by myself. If it matters to you, you'll show me. That's not a maturity. That's self-respect. And men notice that. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. A man who's serious will respect the strength it takes to pull back, and he will rise to meet you there. So when you stop contacting a man, you're not being passive. You're actually being intentional. You're choosing to let your silence speak on your behalf. You're choosing to allow him the opportunity to prove where he stands. You're choosing truth over effort that isn't being matched. And that, right there, is one of the most powerful choices you can make. When you stop contacting a man, one of two things happens, and the first possibility is that he steps up. And when I say steps up, I don't just mean he sends you a text here and there to keep you hanging on. I'm talking about a genuine shift in his behavior. Because here's what your silence does. It disrupts the routine. It interrupts the pattern he got comfortable with, the one where you were always the one keeping things alive. And suddenly, he feels the weight of that space. Suddenly, he realizes the attention, the effort, the presence he was used to wasn't guaranteed. That's when the switch flips. That's when you start to see if he's really willing to put in the effort. A man who values you will not sit comfortably in your silence. He won't just shrug it off and keep going about his day. He will feel that void and he'll want to close it. He'll text you first, not out of obligation, but because he actually misses you. He'll call to check in, not because he's bored, but because he wants your voice back in his life. He'll make plans instead of waiting for you to bring it up. That's what stepping up looks like. It's the effort you don't have to pull out of him. It comes naturally because your absence made him realize your presence matters. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When a man steps up, you can tell almost immediately if his effort is genuine or temporary. Some men will scramble in the beginning because they don't like the feeling of losing what they're used to. But when the silence stretches and they still keep showing up, still keep making space for you, still keep trying, that's when you know he's serious. That's when you know he's not just reacting to the discomfort of silence, but he's realizing that you are a priority in his life. And let's be real for a moment. If you've been the one putting in all the effort, it can feel risky to pull back. It can feel like you're testing fate, like you're risking losing him. But the truth is, you're not risking anything that was truly meant for you. Because if he's the right one, your silence won't push him away. It will pull him closer. It will make him step into the role he should have had all along. And when he does step up, something powerful happens. The dynamic shifts. You stop carrying all the weight, and he begins to share it. You see him take initiative, and you feel the relief of finally not being the only one pouring into the connection. That's not only good for you, it's good for him too. Because men need to invest in what they want. It's in the act of pursuing, in the act of showing up, that their commitment grows stronger. So when you stop contacting a man and he steps up, it's not just about him proving his interest, it's about resetting the balance. It's about letting him show you that he's capable of meeting you halfway. And in doing that, you're not only protecting your own heart, you're giving him the chance to step into the kind of man he's supposed to be for you. That's why when a man steps up after your silence, it's not a coincidence, it's a sign. It's proof that he values what you bring to his life, and he's willing to do what it takes to keep it. When you stop contacting a man, the other possibility reveals itself, and this one can be harder to swallow. He does nothing. He doesn't call. He doesn't text. He doesn't notice your silence enough to bridge the gap. And as painful as that reality is, it's not a loss. It's actually the gift of clarity. Because what your silence does is strip away the illusions you may have been holding on to. It takes away the excuses, the maybe he's just busy, the maybe he's just not good with phones, the maybe I should be more understanding. No. When you stop contacting him, you're giving him the opportunity to show you whether or not he cares enough to step forward. And if he doesn't, that's the answer. This isn't about punishing him. It's not about playing games. It's about truth. And truth doesn't always feel good at first. It stings. It's uncomfortable. But it's always better than wasting your time and energy on someone who isn't invested in you. Because here's the reality: if a man can sit in your silence without moving a finger, without feeling the urge to reach out, without worrying about losing you, then he was never really holding you tightly in the first place. Sometimes we don't want to see that. We'd rather keep putting in the effort ourselves than face the possibility that he might not care as much as we hoped. But your silence shines a spotlight on that truth. It shows you exactly where you stand without you having to chase down the answer. And yes, it hurts. But it also frees you. Because now you know. Now you're not left wondering. Now you're not stuck questioning your worth or trying to interpret mixed signals. His lack of response is the response. His lack of effort is the effort. And here's something powerful. If he doesn't respond to your silence, it doesn't mean you weren't valuable. It doesn't mean you weren't enough. It simply means he wasn't the man willing or able to step up for you. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his priorities. And the sooner you see that, the sooner you stop trying to force something that was never going to be mutual. Think about how much energy you save when you stop pouring into someone who doesn't pour back. Think about the peace that comes from no longer chasing what was never meant to be caught. Silence gives you that gift. It removes the noise, the overthinking, the constant effort, and it leaves behind the truth in its purest form. He either notices your absence and moves, or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, that tells you everything you need to know. So yes, the possibility that he does nothing can feel like rejection, but in reality, it's redirection. It's life showing you this isn't the one who's going to match your energy. This isn't the one who's going to meet you halfway. And that's not something to grieve. It's something to be grateful for. Because the wrong man falling away is what creates the space for the right one to step in. And that's why when your silence is met with silence, you don't lose. You win. You win your time back, your energy back, your clarity back. You win because the truth is finally undeniable. When you stop contacting a man, something powerful happens that most people overlook. You reset the balance of effort. Relationships, whether new or long-term, have a rhythm. That rhythm is built on who initiates, who invests, who pursues, and who responds. And if you've been the one doing most of the work, sending the first text, making the plans, keeping the connection alive, without even realizing it, you've set the rhythm on your own. The problem with that is simple. It leaves no room for him to show you his natural level of effort. When you pull back, when you stop reaching out, you break that old rhythm. You create a pause. And in that pause, you find out whether he's willing to step in and do his part. That's why silence is so valuable. It's not just about whether he misses you. It's about whether he takes responsibility for holding up his end of the connection. Because in a healthy relationship, effort is shared. It's not always 50-50 every day, but it's balanced over time. And if you've been carrying it all, you'll never know if he was willing to carry any of it until you let go. This is where many people struggle because letting go feels risky. You wonder, what if I stop reaching out and he doesn't pick it up? What if the whole thing falls apart? But here's the truth. If the relationship falls apart when you stop doing all the work, it wasn't balanced to begin with. That imbalance was always there. You just weren't letting yourself see it. By stepping back, you give him the chance to reveal his true level of commitment. Does he call? Does he make plans? Does he notice the silence and want to change it? Or does he simply accept it and move on? Either way, you've reset the dynamic to something honest. And think about what happens to your value in this process. When you stop overextending, when you stop giving without receiving, you naturally command more respect. Because people don't respect what they don't have to work for. That's human nature. The moment you stop carrying both sides, you show him that your attention is not free, your time is not unlimited, your energy is not something to be taken for granted. And if he wants it, he has to contribute. That's what resetting the balance does. It sets the expectation without you ever having to say a word. Now, some men will rise to that challenge. They'll step in, start doing more, and show you that they were simply leaning on your effort because it was easy. Once they realize the dynamic has shifted, they'll adjust, and you'll see a new balance form. But others won't. Others will let the silence linger, and that tells you something important too. It tells you that the effort was never going to come from them, no matter how much you gave. And while that can sting, it's also liberating, because it frees you from carrying the weight of someone who never intended to help you hold it. That's why pulling back is never about punishment. It's about clarity. It's about giving the relationship an honest chance to find balance or to reveal imbalance. And either outcome is a win for you. Because now you're no longer stuck in the cycle of giving more and receiving less. You've reset the scales. You've given him the chance to show up. And in doing that, you've taken back your power. That's why when you stop contacting a man, you don't just create silence, you create space for truth. And in that truth, the balance of effort is revealed. When you stop contacting a man, You're not just pulling back communication, you're sending an unspoken message that carries more weight than words ever could. That message is simple: I respect myself. And self-respect always raises your value. It's one of the most magnetic qualities you can have because it tells someone that your worth doesn't depend on their attention. It shows that you are whole on your own, and that if they want to be part of your life, they have to meet you where you are. Now, let's be honest, so many people confuse self-respect with playing hard to get, but that's not what this is. Playing hard to get is a game. Self-respect is a standard. It's not about pretending you don't care when you actually do. It's about caring enough about yourself not to chase someone who isn't meeting you halfway. And men feel the difference. A man knows when you're pulling back to manipulate him versus when you're pulling back because you know you deserve more. One makes him defensive. The other makes him pay attention. See, when you keep chasing, when you keep initiating, when you keep giving more than you're receiving, you're teaching him a dangerous lesson. You're teaching him that your time, your energy, your effort will always be there whether or not he values it. But when you stop, when you step back, you're teaching him a very different lesson. You're teaching him that you are not an option on a shelf waiting to be picked up whenever he feels like it. You are someone who requires consistency, who requires effort, who requires respect. That shift alone changes the way he sees you. And here's the beauty of it: men are drawn to women who carry themselves with that kind of self-respect. It creates gravity. It creates a pull. Because deep down, men know they can't give half-hearted effort to someone who values themselves too much to tolerate it. That kind of woman doesn't get overlooked. She gets prioritized. She doesn't have to beg for attention. It comes to her. And it comes because her energy makes it clear: if you don't step up, someone else will. But let's look at it from your side. When you practice self-respect, you feel different. You feel lighter because you're no longer bending yourself just to keep someone interested. You feel stronger because you're not depending on their response to define your worth. And you feel freer because you're not tied to the outcome, you're tied to your standard. That confidence, that calmness, that certainty, it radiates. And when it radiates, people notice, especially men. Now, will some men fall away when you stand in your self-respect? Yes, but that's the point, because the ones who fall away were never going to honor that value anyway. And the ones who lean in, the ones who rise up, the ones who step closer, those are the ones who are capable of meeting you at your level. Either way, you don't lose. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't lower your standard. You simply allow yourself respect to do the work of filtering out who's meant for you and who's not. And that's the power in stopping contact. It's not about silence for the sake of silence. It's about the message your silence carries. It says, I know my worth, and I won't give it away cheaply. And that message, more than anything else, raises your value in the eyes of the right man. Because when you stand in self-respect, you stop asking, will he choose me? And you start asking, is he worthy of choosing me? When you stop contacting a man, the most important thing to remember is that no matter what happens next, you win. This is the part that most people overlook because they're so focused on the reaction they hope to get. They want him to chase, they want him to miss them, they want proof that he cares. And yes, sometimes that happens. Sometimes he steps up, sometimes he realizes your worth, sometimes your silence wakes him up. But even if he does nothing at all, you still come out ahead. Because what you gain isn't just his response, you gain the truth. And truth is the most valuable thing you can ever hold in a relationship. Think about it this way: if he steps up, you win. You've discovered that he values you enough to put in the effort. You've created balance, you've restored respect, and you now know that his feelings aren't just words, they're action. That gives you confidence in where you stand, and it allows the relationship to grow from a healthier, stronger place. But if he doesn't step up, if your silence is met with silence, you still win. Why? because now you know. You don't have to waste months or even years wondering if you were the only one trying. You don't have to keep giving your energy to someone who was never going to give it back. His lack of response gives you freedom. Freedom from guessing, freedom from disappointment, freedom from holding on to potential instead of reality. And that's the beauty of pulling back. It forces clarity. Relationships fall apart not because people don't care, but because people refuse to face the truth. They'd rather keep putting in effort, hoping things will magically change, than sit in silence and see where they really stand. But when you stop contacting a man, you don't have that luxury anymore. You're confronted with the reality of his effort, or his lack of it. And while that might hurt in the moment, it saves you from so much more pain down the road. What's even more powerful is how this shift changes you. When you realize that silence leads to clarity, you stop fearing it. You stop being afraid of losing someone by not reaching out, because you understand that if silence makes them disappear, they were never yours to begin with. And that changes the way you carry yourself in every connection. You no longer operate from fear, you operate from strength. You no longer cling, you allow. You no longer chase, you attract. And men notice that. They feel that calm confidence, that quiet assurance that you're not desperate for attention, that you're not afraid of losing something that isn't serving you. That energy alone sets you apart because it says, I would rather have the truth than live on illusions. And truth is magnetic. It commands respect. It raises your value without you ever having to say a word. So when you stop contacting a man, whether he steps up or fades away, you don't lose. You gain clarity, you gain self-respect, you gain your peace back. And that's why, in the end, either way you win.